The great hall of the Galactic Council buzzed with quiet conversation as Ambassador Taemin walked through the massive doors. The ceiling stretched high above him, decorated with symbols from 12 different worlds, representatives from across. The galaxy sat in their designated areas, each species maintaining their own customs and traditions. Taemin adjusted his formal robes and made his way to the Viridian section. His aide, Su-Jin, was already there, waiting with a stack of data tablets. She looked young for a diplomatic aide, but her sharp mind had impressed many senior officials. "Good morning, Ambassador," Su-Jin said, bowing slightly. "The trade agreements from Sector 7 are ready for your review." Taemin nodded and took his seat. The morning session would cover routine matters, mining rights, shipping routes, and cultural exchange programs. It was the kind of work that kept the galaxy running smoothly, even if it was not very exciting. As they waited for the session to begin, Su-Jin pulled up an old document on her tablet. "Ambassador, I was reading some historical files last night. Have you ever heard of the human myths?" Taemin chuckled softly. "Humans? You mean those old stories?" "Yes, I heard them when I was young. Ancient fairy tales, nothing more." "But the stories are so detailed," Su-Jin said, her eyes bright with curiosity. "They describe a species that could live on any world, no matter how dangerous. They say humans could survive on planets with poisonous air, extreme temperatures, and deadly radiation." "Impossible," Taemin replied, shaking his head. "No species could adapt to such conditions. Our scientists have proven that life requires very specific environments to thrive." Su-Jin scrolled through more text on her tablet. "The legends also say humans were incredibly stubborn. They never gave up, even when facing certain death. Some stories claim they would fight against impossible odds just because they believed it was right." "Now you sound like old Wusiok," Taemin said with a smile. "That historian still believes every word of those ancient tales." The session began, and they spent the next few hours discussing trade routes between the Crystalline Confederacy and the Oceanic Alliance. When they broke for lunch, Su-Jin brought up the human stories again. "I found something interesting in the archives," she said, showing Taemin her tablet. "There are references to humans in the records of 11 different species. They all describe similar characteristics." Taemin looked at the screen while eating his meal. "Coincidence. Ancient civilizations often created similar myths to explain natural disasters or unknown phenomena. But what if they were real?" Su-Jin asked. "What if humans actually existed but left our part of the galaxy long ago? Then where are they now?" Taemin challenged. "If they were so adaptable and determined, why haven't we seen them in thousands of years?" Su-Jin did not have an answer for that question. She returned to her research while Taemin prepared for the afternoon sessions. Later, that day they encountered Wusiok in the archives section of the council building. The old Viridian historian was bent over an ancient text, his eyes moving carefully across the faded symbols. "Ah, Taemin!" Wusiok called out when he saw them approach. "Perfect timing. I was just reviewing some fascinating records about human technology." "Not you too, old friend," Taemin said with mock exasperation. "Su-Jin has been asking about humans all day." Wusiok's eyes lit up. "Excellent. A young mind eager to learn about our galaxy's true history." He gestured for them to come closer to his desk, where several ancient documents were spread out. The text was written in multiple languages, some so old that only scholars could read them. "Look here," Wusiok said, pointing to a passage. "This Altarian record describes human ships that could travel faster than anything else in the galaxy. And this cetacean document mentions human warriors who could fight for days without rest. Stories grow larger with each telling, Taemin said diplomatically. You know how legends work. But the details match across different cultures, Wusiok insisted. Species that never contacted each other all describe humans the same way. How do you explain that? Sujin leaned in to examine the documents more closely. What happened to them? According to these records, humans were part of early galactic civilization. Wusiok nodded gravely. That is the great mystery. About 3,000 years ago, all references to humans simply stop appearing in our records. It was as if they vanished completely. Or the stories finally died out, Taemin suggested. Myths don't last forever. Perhaps, Wusiok said, but his tone suggested he disagreed. However, I believe they left our galaxy to explore beyond the rim. The legends say humans were always curious about what lay beyond the known worlds. The three of them talked for another hour about the old stories. Sujin asked many questions about human culture and society, while Taemin remained skeptical of the entire discussion. Finally, they had to return to their duties. That evening, Taemin sat in his quarters reviewing the day's work. Sujin had sent him several files about human mythology, and despite his skepticism, he found himself reading through them. The stories were remarkably consistent across different species and time periods. Humans were described as bipedal mammals with incredible endurance and problem-solving abilities. They supposedly came from a world called Earth, which was considered a death world by galactic standards. According to the myths, humans had survived ice ages, asteroid impacts, and massive volcanic eruptions on their home planet. This had made them incredibly tough and adaptable. They could eat almost anything, live in extreme conditions, and recover from injuries that would kill other species. More interesting were the stories about human behavior. They were said to form strong emotional bonds with other species and would risk their lives to protect allies. They valued concepts like honor, freedom, and justice above personal safety or comfort. Taemin closed the files and prepared for sleep. The stories were entertaining, but he remained convinced they were nothing more than ancient fiction. The galaxy was a civilized place now, governed by logic and reason. There was no room for mythical warrior species who fought impossible battles. As he settled into bed, Taemin thought about the peaceful civilization they had built. 12 species working together, sharing knowledge and resources, avoiding the conflicts that had plagued earlier eras. It was a good system, even if it could be boring sometimes. He had no way of knowing that far beyond the galaxy's rim, ancient sensors were detecting something massive approaching from deep space. Something that would soon turn myths into reality and change everything the Galactic Council thought they knew about the universe. 3 months had passed since the conversation about human myths, and life at Beacon 7 Monitoring Station continued its usual routine. Communications Officer Ji-Hai sat at her console, watching streams of data flow across multiple screens. The station orbited at the edge of Council space, listening for any unusual signals from the vast emptiness beyond. Ji-Hai enjoyed the quiet work. Most days brought nothing more exciting than routine check-ins from trading vessels or automated distress beacons from broken satellites. She shared the night shift with her supervisor, Dong Wu, who had been working deep space monitoring for over 20 years. "Anything interesting tonight?" Dongwu asked, settling into the chair next to her with a cup of hot tea. The usual background noise, Ji-Hai replied, adjusting several dials on her console. A few merchant ships reported minor engine problems, but nothing serious. Dongwu nodded and began reviewing the previous shift's reports. The monitoring station was small, with only 6 crew members rotating through 3 shifts. It was not a glamorous assignment, but someone had to watch the borders of known space. At 002:47 station time, Ji-Hai's console detected an unusual energy signature. It was faint and appeared to be coming from somewhere far beyond the galactic rim. She frowned and ran several diagnostic checks to make sure her equipment was working properly. "Dongwu, could you look at this?" she called. "I'm getting some weird readings on the long-range sensors." Dongwu walked over and studied her displays. The signature was definitely artificial, but it did not match any known technology in their databases. "Could be interference from a solar storm," he suggested. "Or maybe debris from an old ship." "I don't think so," Ji-Hai said, fine-tuning her sensors. "The pattern is too regular. It looks almost like a communication signal." They watched the readouts for several minutes. The signal was extremely weak and kept fading in and out, making it difficult to analyze. Whatever was sending it had to be very far away, possibly thousands of light-years beyond the galactic edge. "Try running it through the standard decryption protocols," Dongwu suggested. "Maybe it's from a lost exploration vessel." Ji-Hai began the process, but the signal did not match any current galactic languages or communication standards. She tried several different approaches, but each attempt resulted in meaningless static or random symbols. "This is strange," she muttered, pulling up more advanced analysis tools. "The signal structure suggests intelligence, but I can't make sense of the content." Dongwu was getting worried. Unknown signals from beyond the rim could mean many things, and most of them were not good. "Keep working on it. I'll send a report to command and see if they want us to investigate further." Ji-Hai continued her analysis while Dongwu contacted the regional headquarters. The signal remained frustratingly unclear, appearing and disappearing at irregular intervals. She tried boosting the receiver gain, but that only increased the background noise. After 2 hours of work, Ji-Hai was ready to give up. She had exhausted all the standard protocols and was running out of ideas. As a last resort, she decided to try the ancient linguistic database, which contained records of long-dead languages and obsolete communication methods. "This is probably pointless," she told Dongwu, "but let me check the historical language files." "Can't hurt," he replied, though he looked skeptical. "Most of those records are thousands of years old." Ji-Hai uploaded the signal data to the ancient database and started the translation process. She expected another failure, but after a few minutes, the computer made a soft chiming sound indicating a successful match. She stared at the screen in disbelief. According to the database, the signal was being transmitted in something called Old Terran, a language that supposedly belonged to the mythical human species. "Dongwu," she called urgently, "you need to see this." He hurried over and read the translated message that appeared on her screen. The words were simple but shocking. "This is the Earth vessel Indomitable, requesting safe passage and aid. We come in peace." For a long moment, neither of them spoke. Then Dongwu shook his head. "That can't be right. Check your translation program." Ji-Hai ran the analysis again, but the result was the same. The message repeated every few minutes, always in the same ancient language that the database identified as human. "This has to be a mistake," Dongwu said, but his voice lacked conviction. Humans are myths. They don't exist. The database doesn't lie, Jihai replied, double-checking the translation protocols. And this signal is definitely artificial. Something intelligent is sending it. They spent the next hour trying to find flaws in their analysis, but the evidence was clear. Someone or something was broadcasting in a language that should not exist, requesting permission to enter galactic space. Dongwu finally accepted what they were seeing. "We need to contact command immediately," he said, reaching for the emergency communication system. "This is way above our authorization level." While Dongwu made his report, Jihai continued monitoring the signal. It was getting stronger, which meant whatever was sending it was getting closer to their position. She tried to calculate the source's location and speed, but the readings were inconsistent. The response from command came quickly. Regional Admiral Hyun-woo himself wanted to speak with them directly, which was almost unheard of for a routine monitoring station. "Officers," Admiral Hyun-woo's voice came through the communication system. "I need you to confirm your findings. Are you certain this signal is authentic?" "Yes, sir," Dongwu replied. "We've checked and rechecked everything. The translation is consistent and the signal source appears to be artificial." "Keep monitoring and record everything," the Admiral ordered. "Do not attempt to respond to the signal. We're sending a reconnaissance team to investigate." After the communication ended, Jihai and Dongwu sat in stunned silence. They had discovered something that could change everything the galaxy believed about its own history. "Do you think it's really them?" Jihai asked quietly. "The humans from the old stories?" Dongwu considered the question carefully. "I don't know what to think anymore. A few hours ago, I would have said it was impossible. Now," he gestured at the console, where the translated message continued to repeat. The words seemed innocent enough, but their implications were staggering. If humans were real and returning to galactic space, everything would change. Jihai enhanced the sensor readings and tried to get a better look at whatever was approaching. The energy signatures were unlike anything in their databases, but they definitely indicated large artificial structures moving through space. "Whatever's coming," she said, "it's big. Much bigger than a single ship." As the hours passed, more details became clear. The signals were coming from multiple sources, suggesting an entire fleet rather than just one vessel. The implications grew more serious with each new piece of information. By dawn, Beacon 7 had become the center of galactic attention. Ships from the defense fleet were racing toward their position, and emergency sessions were being called on every major world. The age of myths was ending, and the age of reality was about to begin. Admiral Hyun-woo stood on the bridge of the battleship Starfire, watching the main display as his small fleet moved toward the unknown contact. 3 destroyers and 2 support vessels accompanied his flagship, a carefully chosen force that could defend itself without appearing too aggressive. "Distance to target?" he asked his navigation officer. 12 million kilometers and closing, sir," came the reply. "We should have visual contact within the hour." Hyun-woo turned to his tactical officer, Bo-ra, who was studying the sensor readings with intense concentration. She was young for her position, but had earned her rank through exceptional skill and quick thinking. "What can you tell me about their technology?" Hyun-woo asked. Bo-ra shook her head. "It's unlike anything in our databases, sir. The energy signatures don't match any known propulsion systems, and their hull materials seem to absorb most of our scanning attempts." At the weapons station, Kang-ho looked up from his console. "Admiral, I recommend we maintain full defensive readiness. If these really are the legendary humans, we don't know what their intentions might be." "Noted," Hyun-woo replied. But remember, they sent a peaceful message requesting aid. We'll approach with caution but not hostility. The Admiral had studied every available record about human myths during the journey. The stories painted a picture of a species that could be either humanity's greatest ally or most dangerous enemy, depending on how they were treated. "Sir," the communications officer called out, "we're receiving another transmission from the unknown vessels." "Put it through," Hyun-woo ordered. The same voice they had heard in the recordings spoke again, clear and strong despite the vast distance. "This is Captain Jun-ho of the Earth vessel Indomitable. We detect your approach and appreciate your response to our request. We have wounded aboard and are running low on supplies." Hyun-woo exchanged glances with his senior officers. The message was direct and honest, without the formal diplomatic language typically used in first contact situations. "Open a channel," he decided. "Captain Jun-ho, this is Admiral Hyun-woo of the Galactic Defense Fleet. We are approaching your position to assess your situation and determine how we can assist." There was a brief pause before the response came. "Admiral, we are grateful for your help. Be advised that our fleet is large and may appear threatening, but we pose no danger to your people. We are refugees seeking sanctuary." "Fleet?" Bo-Ra whispered, checking her sensors again. "Sir, I'm reading multiple contacts. Many multiple contacts." The main display updated as their sensors penetrated deeper into space. What they had thought was a single large ship resolved into dozens of separate vessels. Then dozens became hundreds as more contacts appeared on the screen. "By the ancient stars," Kang-ho breathed. "It's an entire civilization." Han-woo stared at the display in amazement. The human fleet stretched across millions of kilometers with ships of every size and configuration. Some were clearly military vessels with heavy armor and weapon systems, while others appeared to be civilian transports or cargo haulers. "Captain Jun-ho," Hyun-woo said into the communicator, "your fleet is impressive. How many ships are we looking at?" 437 vessels carrying approximately 2 million souls," came the reply. "We are all that remains of the human colonial alliance." The bridge fell silent as the implications sank in. They were witnessing the largest refugee movement in galactic history. And these were the mythical humans that most people believed were just stories. "Admiral," Bo-Ra said quietly, "we need to contact command immediately. This is far beyond our authority to handle." Hyun-woo nodded but kept his attention on the approaching fleet. As they drew closer, details became visible on the main screen. The human ships showed clear signs of battle damage, with hull breaches that had been hastily repaired and weapon systems that looked worn from heavy use. "They've been fighting," Kang-ho observed. "These ships have seen serious combat." The lead vessel, presumably the Indomitable, was a massive warship unlike anything in the galactic databases. Its design was both elegant and brutal, with smooth curves broken by aggressive weapon emplacements and armor sections. "Captain Jun-ho," Hyun-woo called, "would you be willing to meet face-to-face? We have a neutral meeting facility that might serve for initial discussions." "Agreed, Admiral. I'll bring 2 of my senior officers to establish proper diplomatic contact." While his communications team arranged the meeting, Hyun-woo sent an emergency report to Galactic Command. The discovery of real humans would shock the entire council and require immediate high-level decisions. 3 hours later, Hyun-woo waited in the conference room of Research Station Gamma, a small facility that served as a neutral meeting point. Bo-Ra and Kang-ho flanked him, while additional security teams remained hidden but ready. When the human shuttle docked, Hyunwoo felt a strange mixture of excitement and nervousness. He was about to meet representatives of a species that had been considered mythical for thousands of years. The airlock opened, and 3 figures entered the station. Hyunwoo's first thought was that the legends had been remarkably accurate. The humans looked exactly as described in the ancient texts. Bipedal mammals with remarkable diversity in their physical features. Captain Jun-ho was tall and lean, with short dark hair and intelligent eyes that seemed to take in everything at once. His uniform was practical rather than decorative, designed for function rather than ceremony. "Admiral Hyunwoo," Jun-ho said, extending his hand in what Hyunwoo recognized as a traditional human greeting. "Thank you for responding to our call." "Captain," Hyunwoo replied, accepting the handshake. "I must admit, most of us believed your species was mythical." Jun-ho smiled sadly. "We hoped the galaxy had forgotten about us, actually. We left because we thought our presence was causing too much conflict among the peaceful species." He gestured to his companions. "This is Commander Yoon-ji, my tactical officer, and Dr. Young-soo, our chief scientist and medical officer." The introductions were formal but friendly. Hyunwoo found himself impressed by the humans' directness and apparent sincerity. They seemed tired but determined, carrying themselves with the confidence of experienced survivors. "Captain," Hyunwoo said, "you mentioned being refugees. What happened to your worlds?" Jun-ho's expression darkened. "We were attacked by something we call the Devourer. It's a machine intelligence that consumes entire star systems, converting matter into more of itself. We fought it for 50 years before Earth fell." Dr. Young-soo pulled out a small device and projected a holographic image. "This is what remains of our home system." The hologram showed a sphere of twisted metal and energy where a star and planets should have been. Hyunwoo and his officers stared in horror at the destruction. "We evacuated everyone we could," Yoon-ji added. "These ships carry the last free humans in the universe." "And this Devourer?" Bo-Ra asked. "Is it following you?" The humans exchanged grim looks. "Yes," Jun-ho said simply. "It will eventually reach this galaxy. When it does, every living world will be at risk." Hyunwoo realized that the return of the humans was both a miracle and a warning. The galaxy was about to face a threat it had never imagined, and their only hope might lie with a species most people thought was just a myth. The meeting continued for several hours as Captain Jun-ho explained the full scope of the crisis facing the galaxy. Admiral Hyunwoo listened with growing alarm as the human described an enemy unlike anything the peaceful galactic civilizations had ever encountered. "The Devourer began as a mining operation," Dr. Young-soo explained, updating his holographic display. "An automated system designed to harvest resources from dead worlds, but something went wrong with its programming. The hologram showed a timeline of destruction spanning decades. System after system had fallen to the machine intelligence, each defeat making it stronger and more sophisticated. It learns from every battle," Commander Yoon-ji added. "Every ship it destroys, every defense it overcomes, makes it better at destroying the next target. We've been fighting a war against an enemy that becomes more dangerous every day." Hyunwoo studied the tactical data that the humans shared freely. The Devourer's capabilities were terrifying, but equally impressive were the human countermeasures and battle strategies. "Your technology is remarkably advanced," Bo-Ra observed. "These weapon designs are completely different from anything we use." Jun-ho nodded. 50 years of total war teaches hard lessons. We had to innovate or die, so we developed new ways of fighting. Our ships, our weapons, our tactics, all evolved to match an enemy that never stops improving." Dr. Young-Soo brought up another display showing human military equipment. We learned to build ships that could take massive damage and keep fighting. Our weapons are designed to destroy targets that can repair themselves. Everything we have is built for a war of survival. But you lost, Kang-ho pointed out, though not unkindly. We lost worlds and battles, Yoon-ji replied. But we never lost the war. The Devourer consumed our territory, but it never broke our will to fight. That's why we're here instead of being absorbed into its mass. Jun-ho leaned forward, his expression serious. Admiral, I need to be completely honest with you. The Devourer will reach this galaxy eventually. When it does, your current military forces won't be able to stop it. Your ships and weapons are designed for conflicts between civilized species, not for fighting something that sees all life as raw material. The implications were staggering. Hyun-woo realized that the galactic civilization he had sworn to protect was completely unprepared for the threat approaching from beyond the rim. What do you propose? He asked. Alliance, Jun-ho said simply. We share our military technology and tactical knowledge. You provide us with sanctuary and resources to rebuild our strength. Together we might have a chance to stop the Devourer before it reaches the major population centers. Dr. Young-Soo activated another holographic display, this one showing estimated timelines. Based on its current rate of expansion, the Devourer will reach the outer systems of this galaxy within 2 years. The core worlds have perhaps 5 years before they come under direct threat. That's not much time, Bo-ra said quietly. No, Yoon-ji agreed. Which is why we need to start preparing immediately. Every day we delay is another day the Devourer uses to grow stronger. Hyun-woo found himself faced with the most important decision of his career. The humans were offering advanced military technology in exchange for help, but accepting their proposal would mean acknowledging that the galaxy faced an existential threat. I need to report this to the Galactic Council, he said. A decision of this magnitude requires approval from all member species. Understood, Jun-ho replied. But while you're debating, could we at least provide medical aid to our wounded? We have thousands of injured people who need treatment. Of course, Hyun-woo said immediately. Dr. Young-Soo, would you work with our medical teams to coordinate relief efforts? Gladly. Our medical knowledge might also be useful to your people. We've learned to treat injuries and conditions that don't exist in peacetime. Over the next few days, human and galactic medical teams worked together to help the refugee fleet. Hyun-woo was amazed by what he saw during his visits to the human ships. The vessels were cramped and worn, but maintained with incredible efficiency. Every space was used for something essential, and there was no waste of resources or energy. The humans themselves showed the same efficiency, working together with a coordination that spoke of long experience in crisis situations. They're not like us, Bo-ra observed during one of their planning meetings. They think differently, act differently. Everything they do is focused on survival and protecting each other. The legends were right about their determination, Kang-ho added. I've never seen people who refuse to give up like this, even after. Losing everything, they're still planning how to fight back. Hyun-woo had reached the same conclusion. The humans were indeed legendary, but not in the way the stories had suggested. They weren't superhuman warriors or technological gods. They were simply ordinary people who had been forced to become extraordinary through necessity. Captain Jun-ho, Hyun-woo said during their final meeting, I want you to know that I'll recommend the Council accept your alliance proposal. But I need to ask you something honestly. If we help you, what guarantee do we have that humans won't Become a threat to galactic peace once the Devourer is defeated? Junho considered the question carefully before answering. Admiral, we left this galaxy 3,000 years ago because we thought our presence caused too much conflict. We didn't want to be conquerors or rulers. We just wanted to explore and learn. He gestured toward the viewport, where the refugee fleet was visible in the distance. Look at us now. We're exhausted, homeless, and desperate. Even if we wanted to conquer someone, we don't have the resources or energy for it. All we want is a chance to live in peace and help defend the worlds that give us sanctuary. Commander Unji spoke up. The legends your people tell about us focus on our military abilities, but the real human strength isn't our weapons or our ships. It's our willingness to sacrifice everything to protect people we care about, even if they're not our own species. Dr. Young-Soo nodded in agreement. We could have stayed hidden beyond the rim and let the Devourer consume this galaxy without warning anyone. Instead, we came back to warn people who consider us myths. That should tell you something about our intentions. Hyun-woo found their arguments convincing, but he knew the council would need more than words to be persuaded. The human fleet represented immense military power, and some species would be frightened by that regardless of the humans' stated intentions. I'll do everything I can to help, he promised, but you should know that not everyone will welcome your return. Some species will see you as a threat rather than an opportunity. We understand, Junho said. We've dealt with fear and suspicion before. All we ask is a fair chance to prove our good intentions. As Admiral Hyun-woo prepared to return to galactic space with his report, he realized that the Council faced a choice that would determine the fate of every world in the galaxy. They could embrace the returning humans as allies against an unprecedented threat, or they could let fear and prejudice blind them to the danger approaching from the dark between the stars. Either way, the age of myths was ending, and the age of consequences was about to begin. The emergency session of the Galactic Council was unlike anything in recent memory. Representatives from all 12 member species filled the great chamber, their voices creating a constant buzz of worried conversation. Ambassador Tae-min sat in the Viridian section, watching as delegates argued about the most significant decision the galaxy had faced in centuries. The evidence is clear, Tae-min said, rising to address the assembly. Admiral Hyun-woo has confirmed that the human species is real and requesting our aid. We must consider their proposal seriously. Across the chamber, Ambassador Nam-jun of the Crystalline Confederacy stood to respond. His crystalline form reflected the chamber's lights as he spoke in his melodious voice. Respected colleagues, we cannot ignore the potential danger these humans represent. According to their own admission, they possess advanced military technology and have been fighting wars for 50 years. How do we know they won't turn these weapons against us? Soo-jin, now serving as a full diplomatic aide, whispered to Tae-min. The Altarian delegate looks like she wants to speak. Ambassador Miraka of the Altarian Republic indeed rose from her section. Her feathered crest was raised in agitation as she spoke. Nam-jun raises valid concerns, but we cannot ignore the threat these humans warn us about. This devourer they describe would be an extinction-level event for our civilization. The chamber erupted in dozens of conversations as delegates discussed the implications among themselves. Speaker Voldan of the Oceanic Alliance called for order with his deep, resonant voice. We will hear from the historian who has studied these matters, Voldan announced. Woo-seok of Viridia has requested permission to address the council. Tae-min smiled as his old friend made his way to the speaker's platform. Woo-seok carried several ancient documents and looked more excited than nervous despite the formal setting. "Honored representatives," Wusok began, "I have spent 40 years studying the historical records of human involvement in our galaxy. The evidence shows that humans were not conquerors, but protectors." He activated a holographic display showing star charts and historical timelines. 3,000 years ago, humans helped establish many of the trade routes and peaceful agreements that form the foundation of our current civilization. They left not because they were driven out, but because they chose to explore beyond our borders. Namjoon interrupted from his seat. "Ancient history proves nothing about current intentions. These humans have been at war for decades. War changes people, makes them dangerous." "The historical records also show something else," Wusok continued, ignoring the interruption. "Every species that allied with humans benefited from the relationship. They shared technology freely, defended weaker civilizations, and never demanded tribute or submission." Su-Jin had been quietly reviewing her own research during the debate. She stood and requested permission to speak, which Speaker Voldan granted. "Respected delegates," Su-Jin said, her voice carrying clearly through the chamber, "I have discovered something important in the archives. Several references to human alliances include specific details about their behavior during conflicts." She activated her own display, showing documents from multiple sources. According to these records, humans had a practice they called protecting the retreat. When battles went badly, human forces would stay behind to ensure their allies could escape safely, even when it meant certain death for the human defenders. The chamber grew quieter as delegates absorbed this information. The concept of deliberately sacrificing oneself for non-related species was almost unthinkable to most galactic civilizations. Furthermore, Su-Jin continued, there are records of humans sharing their most advanced medical and agricultural technologies with species that had nothing to offer in return. They seem to have been motivated by something other than profit or power. Ambassador Zektor of the Mechanical Collective spoke in his synthesized voice. Emotional motivations are unpredictable and potentially dangerous. Logical species make more reliable allies. But logical species also make predictable enemies, Taemin countered. The human's emotional investment in protecting others might be exactly what we need against this devourer threat. The debate continued for hours, with delegates raising concerns about human military capabilities, cultural differences, and the resource requirements for supporting 2 million refugees. Some species worried about the precedent of allowing military refugees into galactic space, while others focused on the potential benefits of human technology. During a recess, Taemin met with several other ambassadors to discuss possible compromise positions. The Oceanic Alliance seemed willing to support the humans, while the Crystalline Confederacy remained firmly opposed. The other species were divided, making the vote uncertain. "What's your honest assessment?" asked Ambassador Lira of the Botanical Consortium. "I think we're facing a choice between certain change and possible extinction," Taemin replied. "If the humans are telling the truth about this devourer, we need their help. If they're lying, we'll deal with that problem when it arises." Su-Jin approached their group with new information. "I've been analyzing the tactical data Admiral Hyunwoo provided. The human military technology is indeed advanced, but it's all defensive in nature. Their ships are built to survive rather than conquer." "What do you mean?" Lira asked. "Their weapons are designed to destroy machines, not capture territory. Their ships prioritize protection over speed or firepower. Everything they've built suggests they're fighting for survival, not expansion. When the session resumed, Speaker Voldan called for formal presentations from each species. The arguments for and against accepting the humans were presented with typical galactic thoroughness and diplomacy. The mechanical collective worried about the unpredictability of emotional species. The crystalline confederacy feared human military might. The botanical consortium was concerned about resource allocation. Each species had legitimate concerns based on their own experiences and values. But as the day progressed, one factor began to dominate the discussion: the threat of the devourer. Even species that distrusted the humans couldn't ignore the evidence of the destruction it had caused. If we reject the human alliance, Ambassador Colwen of the Deep Void Miners asked, what do we do when this devourer arrives? Our current military forces are designed for peacekeeping, not fighting machine intelligences. Namjoon tried to argue that the galaxy could develop its own defenses, but other delegates pointed out the time constraints. 2 years was not enough to completely revolutionize galactic military doctrine. As evening approached, Taimin made one final speech to the assembly. Colleagues, we are debating whether to trust a species we thought was mythical. But the real question is whether we trust ourselves to make the right choice when everything we've built is at stake. He gestured toward the chamber's great dome, where stars were visible through the transparent ceiling. Our ancestors built this council because they believed different species could work together for mutual benefit. The humans are offering us exactly that kind of partnership. Yes, they're different from us. Yes, they've been at war and carry weapons we don't understand. But they came here to warn us of danger and offer their help, not to conquer us. That tells me everything I need to know about their character. The vote was scheduled for the following morning, giving each delegation time to consult with their home governments. As the delegates filed out of the chamber, Taimin felt the weight of the decision they all faced. Sujin walked beside him as they returned to their quarters. "Do you think we'll make the right choice?" she asked. Taimin looked up at the stars and thought about the human fleet waiting beyond the rim, carrying the last survivors of a 50-year war. "I hope so," he said quietly. "Because if we don't, we might not get another chance." Defense Commander Inho stood in the command center of Kalos Station, watching the peaceful mining operations in the asteroid belt below. The outer rim system had been quiet for months, with only routine cargo shipments and the occasional research vessel passing through. It was exactly the kind of assignment he had requested after 20 years of service. "Commander," Communications Officer Hei Wan called from her station, "I'm receiving some unusual readings from the deep space sensors." Inho walked over to examine her displays. The readings showed massive energy signatures approaching from beyond. The system's edge, but they didn't match any known ship configurations in the galactic databases. "Could be a merchant convoy from one of the independent worlds," Inho suggested. "Run a standard identification query." Heiwan tried to contact the approaching objects, but received no response. The energy signatures continued to grow stronger, suggesting something very large was heading directly toward the Kalos system. "Sir," she said with growing concern, "whatever's coming is huge, much bigger than any merchant fleet." Inho felt the first stirrings of worry. The council had been debating the human refugee situation for days, and there were reports of increased military activity near the galactic rim. Could this be related to that situation? "Alert the defense fleet," he ordered. "Bring all ships to readiness status." The Kalos Defense Force consisted of 6 patrol cruisers and 2 heavy destroyers, adequate for dealing with pirates or smugglers, but not designed for major combat operations. Inho hoped they wouldn't be needed. As the unknown contacts drew closer, more details became available on the sensors. The objects were definitely artificial, but their design was unlike anything in the galactic archives. They seemed to be composed of twisted metal and energy patterns that hurt to look at directly. "Commander," Tactical Officer Minseo reported, "the lead objects are slowing down. It looks like they're preparing to enter the system." Inho studied the tactical display with growing alarm. The approaching objects were enormous, each one larger than a space station. They moved with purpose and coordination that suggested intelligence. But there was something wrong about their energy signatures. "Hey Juan, send an emergency transmission to Regional Command," Inho ordered. "Tell them we have unidentified vessels of unknown origin entering our space." Before Hai Wan could send the message, the lead object launched smaller units toward the outer planets. The sensor readings were confusing, showing objects that seemed to be part machine and part energy field. "Sir," Minseo called urgently, "the objects are approaching the mining platforms on Kalos 3. Should I order the fleet to intercept?" Inho hesitated for a moment, then made his decision. "All ships, move to intercept formation. Challenge the unknown vessels and demand they identify themselves." Captain Yubin of the destroyer Vigilant responded immediately. "Roger. Command. Moving to intercept now." Inho watched on the main display as his small fleet moved toward the alien objects. The lead destroyer, Vigilant, positioned itself between the unknowns and the inhabited mining stations. "Unknown vessels," Captain Yubin broadcast. "This is Captain Yubin of the Galactic Defense Force. You are entering restricted space. Please identify yourselves and state your intentions." There was no response. Instead, the alien objects suddenly accelerated toward the defense fleet with impossible speed. Inho watched in horror as things that should not exist began to tear his ships apart. The first destroyer, Braveheart, simply disintegrated when one of the alien objects touched it. There was no explosion, no debris field, just a moment of contact, and then nothing. Captain Yubin's voice came through the communication system, filled with disbelief and terror. "Command, they're not shooting at us. They're absorbing us. The ship is being pulled apart at the molecular level." Inho could barely comprehend what he was seeing. The alien objects were indeed consuming the defense ships, breaking them down into component materials and incorporating them into their own growing mass. "All ships, retreat immediately," he ordered. "Fall back to the station." But it was too late for most of the fleet. The alien objects moved faster than any ship Inho had ever seen, surrounding and consuming the patrol cruisers, one by one. Each destroyed vessel seemed to make the aliens larger and more powerful. "Hey Juan, get that message to command now," Inho shouted over the alarms that were now blaring throughout the station. "I'm trying, sir, but something is interfering with our communications," she replied, working frantically at her console. "The interference is getting stronger as those things get closer." On the main display, Inho could see the alien objects approaching the mining platforms on Kalos 3. The civilian installations had no defenses and no way to escape. He was about to witness the destruction of thousands of innocent people. "This is Commander Inho of Kalos Station to all civilian vessels," he broadcast on the emergency frequency. "Evacuate immediately. Abandon all installations and run for the nearest jump point." Some of the civilian ships began launching from the mining platforms, but they were too slow and too few. The alien objects reached the installations and began the same horrible process of consumption that had destroyed the defense fleet. Inho realized that he was witnessing something that the galaxy had never seen before. A force that consumed rather than conquered, that grew stronger by destroying everything in its path. The reports from the human refugees suddenly made terrible sense. "Sir," Minseo said quietly, "one of the alien objects is heading directly for us." Inho looked at the tactical display and saw that one of the massive entities was indeed approaching. Kalos Station. At its current speed, it would reach them in less than an hour. "Begin evacuation procedures," he ordered. "All non-essential personnel to the escape pods immediately." "What about the command staff?" Heywan asked. "We stay until the last possible moment," Inho replied. "Someone needs to get a warning to the rest of the galaxy." For the next 30 minutes, Inho and his remaining crew worked desperately to send detailed reports about the alien attack. They transmitted everything their sensors had recorded, hoping that somewhere in the data, military strategists would find a way to fight these things. "Commander," Heywan said, "I've managed to get a message through to Regional Command. Admiral Hyun Woo is mobilizing the defense fleet." "Tell him not to engage conventionally," Inho ordered. "These things absorb energy and matter. Traditional weapons just make them stronger." As the alien object drew closer, more details became visible on their sensors. It was a nightmare combination of twisted metal, energy fields, and what looked like organic components. Inho realized that everything the thing had consumed was being incorporated into its structure. "Sir," Minseo reported, "the object is beginning some kind of scan of the station. Our systems are being analyzed." Inho felt a chill of fear. If these things could learn from what they consumed, then every ship and station they destroyed made them more dangerous to the next target. "Final evacuation order," he announced. "Everyone to the escape pods now." "Commander, you need to go too," Heywan insisted. "In a moment," Inho replied, still working to transmit data. "Just a few more minutes." But they didn't have a few more minutes. The alien object suddenly accelerated toward the station, and Inho realized that his time was up. "Go! Everyone go now!" he shouted, pushing Heywan toward the escape pods. As the last pod launched from Kalos Station, Inho remained at his post, transmitting data until the very end. His final message was simple but urgent. "The Devourer is real. It's here. Warn everyone." The escape pods scattered in all directions, carrying the few survivors of humanity's first encounter with the Devourer. Behind them, Kalos Station and everything else in the system was consumed by an enemy that grew stronger with each victory. The age of peace was over, and the war for galactic survival had begun. The final battle began at the galactic core, where massive energy flows powered the jump gates that connected every civilized world. The Devourer had grown to the size of a small planet during its journey through the outer systems, absorbing everything in its path and becoming more intelligent with each victory. Admiral Hyun Woo stood on the bridge of the combined fleet flagship, watching as nearly 1,000 ships from both human and galactic forces prepared for the most important battle in the galaxy's history. Captain Jun Ho stood beside him, studying tactical displays that showed the approaching enemy. "Final estimates put the Devourer mass at 12 kilometers in diameter," Commander Yoon-ji reported from her position at the tactical station. "It's absorbed technology from 47 different star systems and shows adaptive capabilities we've never seen before." Ambassador Tae-min watched from the observation deck with Soo-jin and Dr. Young-soo. As the official liaison, he had no military role in the battle, but he wanted to witness the moment that would determine the galaxy's fate. "Can we really win this?" Soo-jin asked quietly. "We have to," Dr. Young-soo replied. "If the Devourer reaches the core energy matrix, it will have enough power to consume the entire galaxy within a year." The Devourer appeared on the main display as a writhing mass of metal, energy, and absorbed organic matter. It moved with terrible purpose toward the galactic core, where the ancient energy generators hummed with power that had sustained interstellar civilization for millennia. All ships. This is Admiral Hyun Woo, the Admiral broadcast to the combined fleet. Today we fight not just for our own species, but for every living thing in the galaxy. Remember your training, trust your allies, and never give up. Captain. Junho activated the human fleet communication system. All human vessels, this is Captain Junho. We've come a long way from Earth, and we've lost everything we once called home. But today we have a chance to make sure no one else suffers. What we've suffered, make every shot count. The battle began as the combined fleet engaged the Devourer's outer defenses. Smaller machine entities, each the size of a cruiser, swarmed out to protect the main mass. But this time, the galaxy's defenders were ready. Disruption weapons are having effect, Bo-Ra reported from her command ship. The absorption rate is down 60% from previous encounters. Commander Yun-ji coordinated the human forces with practiced efficiency. Strike teams Alpha through Delta target the communication nodes. Don't let it coordinate its defenses. The new weapons Dr. Young-soo had helped develop worked exactly as designed, preventing the Devourer from absorbing the energy of destroyed ships. But even damaged, the entity was incredibly dangerous. It's adapting faster than we expected, Dr. Kwanho reported from the science station. The disruption weapons are becoming less effective as it learns to counter them. Admiral Hyunwoo realized that the battle was turning into a race against time. They had to destroy the Devourer before it adapted enough to overcome their weapons. Completely. All ships, focus fire on the central core, he ordered. We need to disrupt its primary intelligence before it figures out how to beat us. But even the combined firepower of both fleets wasn't enough to penetrate the Devourer's core defenses. The entity began moving toward the galactic energy matrix, apparently deciding to complete its mission rather than continue fighting. If it reaches the core, the energy feedback will make it 10 times larger, Dr. Young-soo warned. We won't be able to stop it after that. Captain Junho studied the tactical displays and made a decision that would define his species' legacy. Yunji, prepare the Indomitable for ramming speed. We're going to take our ship directly into its core. Sir, that's suicide, Yunji protested. The ship will be absorbed before we can do any real damage. Not if we overload our power core. At the moment of impact, Junho replied calmly. The explosion should disrupt its central processing matrix long enough for the fleet to finish it. Admiral Hyunwoo heard the exchange and immediately objected. Captain, there has to be another way. We can't ask you to sacrifice yourself and your crew. You're not asking, Junho said simply. We're volunteering. This is what humans do when people we care about are in danger. Soo-jin watched from the observation deck as the massive human flagship changed course toward the Devourer's core. She realized she was witnessing the kind of heroic sacrifice that had made humans legendary throughout the galaxy. All non-essential personnel, report to escape pods immediately, Junho announced to his crew. Anyone who wants to leave has 30 seconds to get off this ship. Most of the crew remained at their stations. Commander Yunji spoke for all of them when she said, We've been fighting this thing for 50 years, Captain. We're not abandoning the mission now. Dr. Young-soo turned to Ambassador Taemin with urgent instructions. Tell your people to focus all their weapons on the core breach when our ship explodes. You'll have maybe 10 seconds before the Devourer adapts to the damage. Taemin nodded and relayed the message to Admiral Hyunwoo, who immediately began coordinating the final attack. The Indomitable accelerated toward the Devourer's core, its weapons firing continuously to clear a path through the entity's defenses. The ship took massive damage as it approached, but Captain Junho kept it on course through sheer determination. "This is Captain Junho to all ships," he broadcast in his final message. "It's been an honor fighting alongside you. Take care of our people, and remember that humans keep their promises." The Indomitable disappeared into the Devourer's core mass, and for a moment, nothing seemed to happen. Then a brilliant explosion erupted from within the entity, creating a massive breach in its central structure. "All ships, concentrate fire. On the breach!" Admiral Hyunwoo ordered. "Now!" The combined fleet poured everything they had into the opening created by the Indomitable's sacrifice. Disruption weapons, energy beams, and even physical projectiles tore into the Devourer's exposed core. For several minutes, the outcome remained uncertain. The entity writhed and twisted, trying to repair the damage while continuing its advance toward the galactic core. But slowly, its movements became more erratic and uncoordinated. "The Central Intelligence is fragmenting," Dr. Kwan Ho reported. "It's losing cohesion." The Devourer's advance stopped, and then reversed as its component. Parts began breaking away from the main mass. Without the Central Intelligence to coordinate them, the individual machines became confused and vulnerable. "Keep firing," Admiral Hyunwoo ordered. "Don't let it regroup." The battle continued for another hour as the combined fleet systematically destroyed the scattered remnants of the entity that had terrorized the galaxy. When the last piece was finally eliminated, a strange silence fell over the battlefield. "It's over," Commander Yoonji's voice came from one of the escape pods. "The Devourer is dead." The victory celebration that followed was muted by the loss of Captain Junho and the brave crew of the Indomitable. They had saved the galaxy, but at a cost that would be remembered forever. In the weeks that followed, the human refugees were granted full citizenship throughout galactic space. Dr. Young-Soo established new research institutes dedicated to defending against similar threats, while Commander Yoon-ji helped train a new generation of military officers in adaptive combat tactics. Ambassador Tai Min worked with Soo-jin to establish cultural exchange programs between human and galactic communities. The myths about superhuman warriors were replaced by stories about ordinary people who became heroes when heroism was needed. Years later, Soo-jin became an ambassador herself, telling new students about the day humans returned to the galaxy. She would always end her lectures with the same words. They thought humans were myths until their fleet appeared. But the real myth was that any single species could survive alone. The galaxy is stronger when we work together, and weaker when we forget that every species has something valuable to contribute. Historian Woo-sok lived to see his beliefs vindicated and his research become the foundation for a new understanding of galactic history. The human refugees found new homes among the stars, and humanity was no longer considered a myth. They were the guardians of galactic freedom, protectors who had proven that determination and sacrifice could overcome any threat. The Age of Legends had ended, but the Age of Heroes had just begun. The final battle began at the galactic core, where massive energy flows powered the jump gates that connected every civilized world. The Devourer had grown to the size of a small planet during its journey through the outer systems, absorbing everything in its path and becoming more intelligent with each victory. Admiral Hyun-woo stood on the bridge of the combined fleet flagship, watching as nearly 1,000 ships from both human and galactic forces prepared for the most important battle in the galaxy's history. Captain Junho stood beside him, studying tactical displays that showed the approaching enemy. Final estimates put the Devourer mass at 12 kilometers in diameter, Commander Yunji reported from her position at the tactical station. It's absorbed technology from 47 different star systems and shows adaptive capabilities we've never seen before. Ambassador Tae-min watched from the observation deck with Su-jin and Dr. Young-soo. As the official liaison, he had no military role in the battle, but he wanted to witness the moment that would determine the galaxy's fate. Can we really win this? Su-jin asked quietly. We have to, Dr. Young-soo replied. If the Devourer reaches the core energy matrix, it will have enough power to consume the entire galaxy within a year. The Devourer appeared on the main display as a writhing mass of metal, energy, and absorbed organic matter. It moved with terrible purpose toward the galactic core, where the ancient energy generators hummed with power that had sustained interstellar civilization for millennia. All ships, this is Admiral Hyun-woo, the Admiral broadcast to the combined fleet. Today we fight not just for our own species, but for every living thing in the galaxy. Remember your training, trust your allies, and never give up. Captain. Jun-ho activated the human fleet communication system. All human vessels, this is Captain Jun-ho. We've come a long way from Earth, and we've lost everything we once called home. But today, we have a chance to make sure no one else suffers what we've suffered. Make every shot count. The battle began as the combined fleet engaged the Devourer's outer defenses. Smaller machine entities, each the size of a cruiser, swarmed out to protect the main mass. But this time, the galaxy's defenders were ready. Disruption weapons are having effect, Bo-Ra reported from her command ship. The absorption rate is down 60% from previous encounters. Commander Yoon-ji coordinated the human forces with practiced efficiency. Strike teams Alpha through Delta. Target the communication nodes. Don't let it coordinate its defenses. The new weapons Dr. Young-soo had helped develop worked exactly as designed, preventing the Devourer from absorbing the energy of destroyed ships. But even damaged, the entity was incredibly dangerous. It's adapting faster than we expected, Dr. Kwan-ho reported from the science station. The disruption weapons are becoming less effective as it learns to counter them. Admiral Hyun-woo realized that the battle was turning into a race against time. They had to destroy the Devourer before it adapted enough to overcome their weapons. Completely. All ships, focus fire on the central core, he ordered. We need to disrupt its primary intelligence before it figures out how to beat us. But even the combined firepower of both fleets wasn't enough to penetrate the Devourer's core defenses. The entity began moving toward the galactic energy matrix, apparently deciding to complete its mission rather than continue fighting. If it reaches the core, the energy feedback will make it 10 times larger, Dr. Young-soo warned. We won't be able to stop it after that. Captain Jun-ho studied the tactical displays and made a decision that would define his species' legacy. Yunji, prepare the Indomitable for ramming speed. We're going to take our ship directly into its core. Sir, that's suicide, Yunji protested. The ship will be absorbed before we can do any real damage. Not if we overload our power core. At the moment of impact, Jun-ho replied calmly. The explosion should disrupt its central processing matrix long enough for the fleet to finish it. Admiral Hyun-woo heard the exchange and immediately objected. Captain, there has to be another way. We can't ask you to sacrifice yourself and your crew. You're not asking, Jun-ho said simply. We're volunteering. This is what humans do when people we care about are in danger. Su-jin watched from the observation deck as the massive human flagship changed course toward the Devourer's core. She realized she was witnessing the kind of heroic sacrifice that had made humans legendary throughout the galaxy. All non-essential personnel, report to escape pods immediately, Junho announced to his crew. Anyone who wants to leave has 30 seconds to get off this ship. Most of the crew remained at their stations. Commander Yunji spoke for all of them when she said, "We've been fighting this thing for 50 years, Captain. We're not abandoning the mission now." Dr. Young-Soo turned to Ambassador Taemin with urgent instructions. "Tell your people to focus all their weapons on the core breach when our ship explodes. You'll have maybe 10 seconds before the Devourer adapts to the damage." Taemin nodded and relayed the message to Admiral Hyunwoo, who immediately began coordinating the final attack. The Indomitable accelerated toward the Devourer's core, its weapons firing continuously to clear a path through the entity's defenses. The ship took massive damage as it approached, but Captain Jun-ho kept it on course through sheer determination. "This is Captain Jun-ho to all ships," he broadcast in his final message. "It's been an honor fighting alongside you. Take care of our people, and remember that humans keep their promises." The Indomitable disappeared into the Devourer's core mass, and for a moment, nothing seemed to happen. Then a brilliant explosion erupted from within the entity, creating a massive breach in its central structure. "All ships, concentrate fire." "On the breach!" Admiral Hyunwoo ordered. "Now!" The combined fleet poured everything they had into the opening created by the Indomitable's sacrifice. Disruption weapons, energy beams, and even physical projectiles tore into the Devourer's exposed core. For several minutes, the outcome remained uncertain. The entity writhed and twisted, trying to repair the damage while continuing its advance toward the galactic core. But slowly, its movements became more erratic and uncoordinated. "The Central Intelligence is fragmenting," Dr. Kwan-ho reported. "It's losing cohesion." The Devourer's advance stopped and then reversed as its component. Parts began breaking away from the main mass. Without the Central Intelligence to coordinate them, the individual machines became confused and vulnerable. "Keep firing," Admiral Hyunwoo ordered. "Don't let it regroup." The battle continued for another hour as the combined fleets systematically destroyed the scattered remnants of the entity that had terrorized the galaxy. When the last piece was finally eliminated, a strange silence fell over the battlefield. "It's over." Commander Yunji's voice came from one of the escape pods. "The Devourer is dead." The victory celebration that followed was muted by the loss of Captain Jun-ho and the brave crew of the Indomitable. They had saved the galaxy, but at a cost that would be remembered forever. In the weeks that followed, the human refugees were granted full citizenship throughout galactic space. Dr. Young-Soo established new research institutes dedicated to defending against similar threats, while Commander Yunji helped train a new generation of military officers in adaptive combat tactics. Ambassador Taemin worked with Soo Jin to establish cultural exchange programs between human and galactic communities. The myths about superhuman warriors were replaced by stories about ordinary people who became heroes when heroism was needed. Years later, Soo Jin became an ambassador herself, telling new students about the day humans returned to the galaxy. She would always end her lectures with the same words. They thought humans were myths until their fleet appeared, but the real myth was that any single species could survive alone. The galaxy is stronger when we work together and weaker when we forget that every species has something valuable to contribute. Historian Woo Seok lived to see his beliefs vindicated and his research become the foundation for a new understanding of galactic history. The human refugees found new homes among the stars, and humanity was no longer considered a myth. They were the guardians of galactic freedom, Protectors who had proven that determination and sacrifice could overcome any threat. The Age of Legends had ended, but the Age of Heroes had just begun.